righteousness. As for me, I shall behold your face in righteousness. When I awake, I shall be satisfied, beholding your likeness.
Thank you. We continue in the book of Genesis this week in chapter 32 with the story of Jacob. Genesis 32, beginning at verse 22. The same night, he got up and took his 2 wives, his 2 maids, and his 11 children, and crossed the ford of the Jabbok. He took them and sent them across the stream, and likewise everything that he had. Jacob was left alone, and a man wrestled with him until daybreak. When the man saw that he did not prevail against Jacob, he struck him on the hip socket, and Jacob's hip was put out of joint as he wrestled with him. Then he said, "Let me go, for the day is breaking." But Jacob said, "I will not let you go unless you bless me." So he said to him, "What is your name?" And he said, "Jacob." Then the man said, "You shall no longer be called Jacob, but Israel, for you have striven with God and with humans and have prevailed." Then Jacob asked him, "Please tell me your name." But he said, "Why is it that you ask my name?" And there he blessed him. So Jacob called the place Peniel, saying, "For I have seen God face to face, and yet my life is preserved." The sun rose upon him as he passed Peniel, limping because of his hip. Please pray with me. Lord, take my mind and think with it. Take my lips and speak through them. Take my hands and work with them. And take my heart and set it on fire with love for you. Amen. So in 2020, the pandemic year, the worldwide market for sleeping aids reached $80 billion, and the United States made up a quarter of that. That includes everything from sleeping prescriptions, prescription drugs, over-the-counter drugs, special beddings, special kinds of bed, even sleep apnea devices. $80 billion. But Charles Cutler, who's an internist, said sleeping pills are not going to cure you. The overwhelming percent of patients with sleep disturbances have emotional concerns that are bothering them and keeping them awake. There may be other things going on in your life that we need to fix. Now for Jacob, there at the Jabbok River, that would have been an understatement. 20 years before, he had stolen his brother Esau's birthright and blessing, and then hightailed it out of town before Esau could kill him. And in the 20 years since, Jacob has become a wealthy man with 2 wives, 2 maids with whom he's also had children, and at this point, 11 sons. So the reunion with Esau, he finds out, is imminent. And Jacob takes his entourage and divides it in 2, so that if they're destroyed, only half of them will be. And he sent fawning messages and gifts ahead to Esau to placate him. And true to character, Jacob sent his family ahead to meet Esau first, while he remains on the other side of the river. He may have inherited God's promises, the ones that were given to his grandfather Abraham and his father Isaac, but Jacob remains true to character here. He is, and he always will be, somewhat of a heel. And that was one bad sleepless night there on the other side of the river. The writing here is so rich, so ambiguous, and so full of 3 a.m. angst, dread, confusion. It's like candy to an English major. The parallel passage we read a few weeks ago, when Jacob left home 20 years before and found himself alone. And here Jacob is alone again. But this time there's no angelic expressway to heaven. Instead, Jacob was left alone and a man wrestled with him until dawn or daybreak. The sudden appearance and the protracted struggle are both captured in that one short sentence. At 3 a.m., it can be hard to know if fear startled you awake or if you've been wrestling with this stranger all night. Your sleepless struggle goes on. How long can this night last, you may ask? And then the man struck Jacob on the hip socket and put it out of joint. Now, the Hebrew Bible scholar Robert Alter says that this word struck always means to touch or even barely touch. The adversary maims Jacob with a magic touch. At 3 a.m. for us, a worrisome small thought can turn terrifying. A slight hurt worsens into a wound. As the man did, our darkest thoughts beg to be let go, to be released, to salvage some part of the night for rest, but they're hard to release. I will not let you go unless you bless me, Jacob says. And just who is this adversary, the man? Jacob wants to know his name because he wants to know who he is, but he never hears it. If the man is God, as Jacob thinks, couldn't he just prevail over a mere mortal? And wouldn't he already know Jacob's name? Would he have to ask? According to rabbinic tradition, the wrestler is Samuel, Esau's guardian angel, and an incarnation of evil. In this interpretation, it symbolizes a struggle with evil that Jacob and his descendants will undergo. Others say that it's a holy angel, symbolizing Jacob's future wrestling with spirituality. The medieval scholar Rashi says Jacob calls the place Peniel because I saw an angel face to face and my life was preserved. For us at 3 a.m., it can be hard to tell if our regrets and guilt pangs are godly conscience or darker, destructive self-doubt. Or maybe like Scrooge wrestling with Marley's ghost, we attribute our misfortunes to an unfortunate dinner choice. Whatever the interpretation, whatever interpreters choose to call Jacob's wrestling partner, Jacob believes it's God. And in the end, that's what matters in Jacob's life and in ours. How we interpret what happens to us can be even more important than the event itself. And Jacob recognizes God when God blesses him. We don't hear what the blessing is. We don't learn the man's name. We might not even be sure who won this wrestling match. But Jacob recognizes God in the blessing, in the gift God gave him, undeserved. Jacob stole a blessing, and God blesses him anyway. At 3 a.m., do you know that whatever you're wrestling with, you're not alone, that God is with you, and that if you ask, you will be given a blessing. Whatever nights of suffering or sadness or struggle or pain you may endure at certain points in your life, God will bless you. And then the sun will come up and your life with God will be preserved. The next day, Jacob and Esau finally meet again. And what a blessing it is. Esau ran to meet him and embraced him and fell upon his neck and kissed him. And they wept. Jacob tells his twin brother, truly, to see your face is like seeing the face of God, since you have received me with such favor. To see God in the blessings of our lives, to know that we have been received with favor, to know that even in our darkest nights, we're not alone. The dawn will come, and with it, blessing. Healing is always possible. Forgiveness is possible. All things with God are possible. You are received with such favor. Embrace it today. Amen.
A babe's first cry, a life begins. From love and pain, free from all sin. Lord, you loved me first of all. When at my birth, you took my hand. When innocence gives way to you, temptation comes, confusion too. No right from wrong, seek what to do. I stumbled on, you took my hand. A loved one found, a life to share, someone to love, someone to care. Filled me with joy, a sense of worth. We took our vows, you took our hands. Then children born, our family grew. With laughs and love, they married too. Grandchildren came, our lives complete. Memories were made, you took all hands. My loved one passed, a loss so great. I ached inside, my heart did break. But healing came and faith renewed. I understood, you took my hand. Lifelong and full, my tasks are done. I smile in joy with faith in you. Prayers answered all, here but one more. I'm ready, Lord. Please take my hand.
That was so beautiful. Thank you, Ron, for writing and sharing that. And thank you, Peter, for learning and playing it for us. That was amazing.
Beautifully